You don't get the R, nothing we can do for you. Nothing you can do for yourself. And we can't do that for you. We won't do your homework for you. Asking price, I can't tell you how many people send us stuff and they don't even know what the seller's asking for the house. They just know it ought to be a good deal. Loan, that's the most violated one of the bunch. And the truth is that when it comes down to it, they're afraid to ask. What do you owe on the house? Repeat after me. What do you owe on the house? There's only two responses you're going to get. An immediate answer, or it's none of your business. If it's none of your business, you don't even need the answers to the next two questions. You have just pre-screened your seller. Put them down. They're dead. And you can't jump up and down on the dead horse and breathe it back to life. It's over. Anybody who won't tell you what they owe are worthless. Period. Get rid of them. And don't ever call them again. And if they call you and beg you to buy your house, say no. You pissed me off the last time. I don't want your house. Repairs. If it's a big, beautiful house, just ask them, does the house need any work? All there is to it. And if they say, no, it's gorgeous, you got your answer. Doesn't need any repairs. The best you can tell for now. Or they'll tell you what it needs. And incidentally, when they say what it needs, I don't want to know what it needs. I want to know what it costs. I don't care what I'm spending the repair money on. I just need to have a good idea of generally what it costs. For example, I can tell you right here on this sheet, John wrote on here it needs $5,000 to $10,000. Well, I will tell you right now, on a house of that size, $5,000 to $10,000 will barely get the yard cleaned up. So I just assume it needs more. I'm assuming it's in absolutely excellent condition to need $5,000 or $10,000. But I don't care. With that much equity, what difference does it make whether it needs 5, 10, 15, 20, or 25? Doesn't matter. So I want to know if I'm dealing with a repair job or if I'm dealing with an excellent condition. And then I want to know if the payments are current. Now, of course, that question, the answer to that question will totally change the complexion of the whole deal. Because if they're current, short sale is over. If they're not current, instant short sale. If they're current, I may have to fight for the deed. If they're not current, it's a slam dunk. People who are behind on their payments tend to give you the deed with little resistance. People that are current might want to ask you more questions. They might want to pre-screen you a little, or not. Now, I got the answer to these 5 questions. Look what I've discovered just from those 5 questions. Is the seller willing to give away equity? How do I know this? The difference between the ARV and the asking. Hey, here's a tip. If the seller is asking market value or anywhere close to it, you don't need the rest of the answers. Whack them. If these are being submitted to you on the internet or from Pat Live, the property information sheets, do you know these answers without ever talking to the seller? Yes? Can you see how easy it is to pre-screen out prospects without even having phone calls with them, much less going running around town looking at all the houses you can't buy? Guys, you should not look at more than 2 houses for every one you buy. This ain't a business where you've got to have a full tank of gas because you never know how far you got to go to look at worthless deals. And let me tell you something. If I lived in Atlanta, geez, it's an hour and a half from point A to point B, wherever they're at in this town. Under no circumstances would I want to be running around this city. And of course, if I lived here, I would do just like all my best students do. Stay in a quadrant of the city and harvest it and stay there. All those big cities, same way. But I learned, in fact, that's the easiest pre-screening device right there. If the R of the asking are anywhere near close, it's over. There's nothing you can ask that seller from that point on that matters. But you're going to try. Well, what if I can get them to come down? What if I can get them to take payments? Well, what if I can get them to take their equity later? Well, if they want all of their equity, what do I care whether they get it now or later? I ain't buying the house because I'm a for-profit organization, not a charity organization. And when I say for-profit, I mean a large profit. I don't work cheap. And I certainly won't work for the pittance they pay realtors to do the same stuff. Not, you get to choose. Do I make more or do I make less? And then you also get to choose. The less I do, the more I make. And if you understand that right here, this process, this pre-screening process, is what determines whether you do more or whether you do less. Because if you don't get this pre-screening stuff down to a science, you could spend all day looking at houses you'll never buy. If you get this down to a science, you'll buy almost every single one you go look at. Make sense? Starts right here. Starts right on the telephone. Or starts right on this sheet before you even get on. They got to pass this test before you even get on the phone. Now, if I get 20 of these coming across my email, I promise you not more than 2 or 3 of them are going to pass the test. I don't have more than 2 or 3 of them to even call or email back. Is that your experience? Huh? Who's getting leads by internet or by fax or from Pat Live right now? How close am I? Answering service. In other words, Pat Live takes your calls and fills this out for you. Got it? So you go, you know you're going to buy it before you go look, but how many of these do you normally get before you even have a prospect worth chasing? 10? 1 out of 5 are prospects. Okay, that's good. Who else? Who else is getting these? Way back there. Go ahead, shout it out. About 20? About 20 leads to call one. I suggest you're probably throwing a lot of money in the trash if you're getting 20 leads and only getting one worth chasing. They want more money than the house is worth. Well, I hear you, but I don't believe you. Those are the ones that stick in your mind. Okay, you show me. Are you sure you want to do this? Who else? Over here, yes. 5 and 8 to get 1 lead worth chasing. You get some where you look like there's nothing there.
I've got some that they want 100% on what they say the house is worth. Anyway, it's basically the wrong information.
Well, okay, then which is a good point, I guess. Somebody else captures the information for you.
Right. And
then you learn not to trust that because they haven't asked the right questions, and that is a good point. If Pat Live is capturing the information, you got to remember, they got Popeye's chicken graduates down there doing the capturing. They don't know anything about real estate. All right? So if they're capturing your information, maybe they asked the wrong questions to get the wrong answers, or they just filled in the blanks thinking they heard what they heard. If you see any reason to call them, it's certainly worth verifying the information, and you're absolutely correct, because you will pick up a deal from time to time. However, if they're calling you and you're talking to them directly, you'll be able to instantly spot whether they're in or out. If they come through across the internet, it's hard to capture wrong information there. I mean, the questions are right there. They just type it in. I guess what you're saying is, if you work hard enough, you can always get an oyster in one of those pearls, or a pearl in one of those oysters, right? I don't have the patience for it.
Even more so in pre-foreclosures, about 50% of your deals are good deals. You get 10 calls, you got 5 deals. Because
that is true.
To negotiate the debt.
That is true. Probably more, Jeff. You get 10 people calling you, they're in foreclosure or behind on their payments. Probably more of them are deals than 5.
You could probably do 90% of them, but we look for houses that are in good condition, so we weed them down to less than 5.
Yes. Stack of Pat Live leads from this week. You want what? You want me to just stop right now and take a look at your leads? Actually, what you should do, I want you to go out back there and talk with Bo when you get a chance. How many you got there? Count them right now. Count them. These are Pat Live leads, which is the same information sheet you guys got, guys, just laid out a little different. Actually, it's not. There's 10 questions on the Pat Live questionnaire, which more than covers enough for you to determine whether you want to get more information or not. I don't know. Pat Live is one of our, I can't call them a partner. They're one of our vendors that we send people to. I've worked with them. They take incoming calls for buyers and for sellers. I wrote the script for them. I wrote the questions for them to use, so you guys could just tap into them. They're $20 a month, and if they're going to take these live, they're about $3 each. Yes? 15. Okay? We're going to have a report back on how many leads are in that pile after you sit down with Bo. And then when Bo gets through, I want to see him. Let me tell you what, you're in a position of power when you can take a pile like that and pull money out that nobody else sees. I'm going to teach you if you give me enough time and enough money. Okay, let's move down here quickly. Is there enough spread for me to want to get involved? Which is the first question Jeff asked himself, and me too. Do I want to mess with one if there's not enough, if I can't see enough money in it? Will repair costs eat up the equity and make the deal complicated? $100,000 house, $80,000 mortgage, needs 15 in work, and it's current. Dead. Can't negotiate a short sale, it's current, it's dead. There's a short sale prospect. Is it because it's behind? You instantly know that with question number 5 answered. Is it loaded with liens? I may get released to create more equity. We'll talk about that MOS. Not going into that here. When I got judgments and liens and all that crap, I can get them removed from the property. Not pay them off, but remove them and create free equity. Is it a very high-priced house that scares me to sleeplessness? There is no such thing for me. Maybe for you. Because I don't lose sleep over anything. Close my eyes, it's over. Well, I have to start making payments in the future because the loan is current and the spread isn't big enough to justify cashing out now. I'll have to make payments in the future. If anytime you see a loan that is current, you're either going to have to start making payments because you intend to lease option it out, or your exit strategy is to cash out and pay the loan off now. You should know this going in. And it's very simple. If there's a lot of equity, what are you inclined to do? No. If there's a lot of equity, what are you inclined to do? Cash out and get the money. Now that's not required, is it? But are you inclined to do that? If your cash flow needs are taken care of today, and if the last thing you need is more income to pay taxes on, could you just as easily decide, though, to leave the equity in the property, put a lease option tenant in there, and put it in the I want to get rich, fat, and happy someday column? Yes. Remember, guys, anytime you got property with a lot of equity, you got assets you can tap into at any time you wish. There is nothing wrong with keeping properties. In fact, there's a lot right about it. But only after we get our cash flow needs of today taken care of. So, earlier we discussed get the deed with one loan, get the deed with 2 loans, get the deed and give back some equity to the seller in the form of a second mortgage. The magic words. Let's say you've got a prospect that's called you. They got a $150,000 house. How do you know it? Because you ask them what? What do you think it would appraise for? They owe $128,000 on it. They're asking for $10,000 and you can have the house. What's the next question? Will you sell the house for what you owe on it? One question will determine whether you're going to do this deal or not. If they owe $128 and it's worth $150 and you can get it for free, who would take it? And it's pretty. Ho, 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 ho. Let me say that again. If they owe $128 and it's worth $150 and it doesn't need any work and you don't need any money to buy it and it's no risk involved, who would take it? Okay, I must have misstated that question the first time. However, if they owe 128 and they want 10 and it's only worth 150, who would take it under those terms? Nobody raised their hand. You see, the difference between whether this is a deal or not deal lies in the very next question. Will you sell me the house for what you owe on it? Because if the answer is no, I want my 10, I don't need to know anything about the house. I don't want it. Not interested anymore. And if you locate some prospects out there like we did on the first day, you won't even have a need to follow up on this thing. Now, if you're hungry for prospects, you'll follow up on this till the second coming. But if you're not, it's such a small deal, it won't matter to you anymore because you're going to be focusing on much bigger ones. Because the guy might change his mind later and just sell it for what he owes, right? Well, will you follow up? I don't have the patience. If you don't get me the right answer now, he's gone. See, I want people begging me to buy their house. I ain't begging them. It's a good thing Donna's doing this and not me. However, he says, no, I can't sell it for what I owe. That doesn't necessarily mean he wants to hold $10,000, does it? So what's the next question? What's the least you would take for your equity if I took over your loan now? Now what if he comes back and says, well, I'd take 5. Is that the best you can do? What if he says yes? Who'd do it? Who'd do it? Raise your hand, let me see. Who'd do it? No, you wouldn't. You're not going to give somebody $5,000 to take over a $128,000 loan on a $150,000 house. You could. Not the worst use of your money, that's for sure. But aren't you better off doing better deals than that and keeping the $5,000 in the bank out of harm's way? Do you understand that the minute you write that check for $5,000, now you are obligated for that debt? Now you're not personally liable. But if you don't make that payment, now you're going to lose that $5,000. Now you're the stuckee. Besides, if I got a $150,000 house, there may not be that more. I may not get more than $5,000 back when I lease option a property out. I mean, do you guys really want to do all these deals that suck up your time but don't produce huge checks? Well, you get to vote. In my stage, I would absolutely vote no, and I can assure you Mr. Collar wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole either. You see, we've learned that when we have to write checks, the deal gets ugly. Unless there's a lot of equity to justify writing the check. And in this case, I don't consider that a lot of equity. I guess I'm spoiled because I know it's just so easy to get a lot more equity with no money. It's just all over the place, guys. It's just all over the place. In fact, if you'd write a check for that deal, I suggest you spend the $5,000 to crank up the buying machine so you can get better deals. Of course, that's 2.5 months worth of expenses, remember? Yes?
Did you say that we can determine the R by asking them what they think it would appraise for?
What do you think the house would appraise for is the question you ask, and that's all you need to know right now to determine whether you need to know more.
When you get a response that, well, I had it appraised a year ago, do you knock 5 or 10% off that number? Or?
No, you add 5 or 10% to it. Because what it appraised for a year ago for most of where you live is not what it's worth today. It's worth more.
But earlier you were talking, I'm seeing a lot of appraisals that are overinflated.
Only on the upper price range houses. Not on $150,000 houses.
Plus on the upper price range houses that have been refinanced. Any refinance appraisal is going to be about 10 to 15% higher than the actual value because the brokers could be pushing the value up.
You understand, of course, right now, you're just trying to make a decision whether you want more information. Right now, there's no reason for you not to accept what they tell you unless you just know it immediately it's wrong until you verify it. Would you probably be well advised to do some comps of your own even before you went out to the house to get the deed? Say yes, Ron.
Yes, Ron.
Well, then you'll get your answer right there. Right now, we're still trying to decide whether we want to proceed. That's all we're doing here. We're not buying a house right now. We're determining whether we want to go forward. That's all. And so, yes, you would verify that value. But when the customer tells you, this is what it's worth, there's no reason for you to doubt them until you have evidence to show it differently.
You're just asking them that for a benchmark to decide whether or not you want to proceed forward.
That is exactly right, and I think what I just said. I'm only trying to collect the information quickly at lightning speed. You know, this whole conversation is less than 2 minutes. Lightning speed to determine whether I want to go forward. I'm trying to pre-screen my prospect. That's what I'm trying to do. That's all. I want more information to determine whether I want to buy. I want this whole sheet filled out. I want to know the square footage. I want to know, it's got a garage. What kind of condition it's in for sure. All this stuff on here. I want to know that before I buy it. But I don't need to know that to determine whether I need to know the rest of this stuff. These 5 questions, all I want, nothing else. Yes?
Ron, what would you say is a good multiple on the money you're going to put down to buy equity?
For you or for me?
Yes.
Well, let's put it this way. I doubt you guys from this stage are going to put out money where you're not going to get a horrendous return on it. Even the if you put up the $5,000 on that deal, you're going to get a horrendous return on it. So the question is not whether it's a good investment from an investment standpoint. It's whether it's the best thing for you to do with the knowledge you got for that money. I wouldn't write the check for that one because there's not enough equity in it for me. When I know I can get a lot more equity for free, why would I want to spend money for it? Now, if that was the only deal I could get, and that was my only option, I'd write that check. For me, gosh, I want many times the amount of money I put out back, or I don't want to write the check. I don't want 10%. I want 10 times the money back.
Right. To me, that was the question.
Well, I'm going to get actively involved in it. You understand? That's a trade-off. Any deal I write a check for, I'm actively involved in it. This is not a passive investment.
Right.
I would say if that's a question for him, then don't put up any money. Just get going in this and see what's going to come out of the woodwork. But putting up any money right now as you get going is asinine because you're not sure of the exits, unless you are sure of the exits.
Remember, the minute you write the check, you're at risk. All right. There's a chart in your book on page 273 that I created. And this one is for you to fill out. And if you'll take a look down it, you'll see that there are some examples, and your ARB and your asking and your loan and your repairs and whether your payments are current are all on there, the big 5. You are to go down the P or S column. And if you look up there, P or S stands for what? It's not place or show. It's prospect or suspect. If it's a suspect, it means it's over. It's out of your life. If it's a prospect, it means it's worth getting more information on. I want you to look at those 5 facts. Don't even think about coming up and asking me what the monthly payment is. How old is the house? How many square footage are in it? I don't care. Remember, we got to get through the pre-screening test. In other words, there has to be a P in that column before we need to know the rest of that information. Everybody with me? So all I want to know is it a P or an S? And if it's a P, what do you see as the exit strategy, which are located right above it? Now, folks, those are your exit strategies. It really is that simple. You can answer none. I wouldn't buy it. That exit's easy. 2, I'll buy it and lease option it. I'll get the deed and lease option it. 3, I'll buy it and hopefully I'll short sale it and sell it for cash. Because when you short sale, you're selling for cash. Or I'll sell for cash as is because I get enough equity in it. And or I'll fix it and sell it for cash. So you don't have to write those words in there. You could just put, I'll do a number 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or a 5. Is everybody with me? So all I want from you is either a P and an S and a number of 1 through 5 in the next column. Any questions? None? Okay. Well, I'll give you a few minutes. You may talk to each other. Talk to your partner. Talk to anybody you want. This is an open book test, but take some time right now and go down there and complete this one page. Go. Let's see how good you are. And I'll tell you what. I got 1, 2, 3, 4 t-shirts up here. So, I'm going to ask for 4 different volunteers to go to the mic. And if you give me the right answer, first one's to the mic, get it. If you give me the right answer, I'll give you a t-shirt. Give me the wrong answer, you give me the shirt off your back. You might say, well, you already got it, huh? All right. First problem, 150 ARV, 147 asking, loan 120. First one right here, first row.
Suspect.
Suspect. Right answer. Okay. Why is it the right answer? Because the ARV and the asking are the same. It's a dead deal. Number 2, 150 ARV, asking 135, loan 120. Is there somebody in the back mic? First one, we've got too many in line. We only need 4 here.
Suspect.
Somebody, but I'll take 2 from the front, and that's this guy, and then 2 from the back. The rest of you might as well sit down. Back row.
That was a suspect for number 2.
That's a suspect. Wrong answer. Sit down. Take off your shirt. That is not a suspect. That is a prospect. The next person in line in the back, tell me why that's a prospect. If you agree.
Lease option, exit strategy.
All right. Now wait a minute. First of all, he's given us $15,000 worth of equity on the face, is he not?
Yes.
Okay. Is that reason enough to certainly want to know the rest of the information about this property, especially when you immediately see that he only owes 120?
Right.
Do you guys see that you got another $15,000 worth of bargain with there? Hello? Yeah. So you don't pass on a deal like that. That's a prospect. That's probably not one of these kick-butt deals Jeff's going to show you this afternoon. It's not the best deal I've ever did on the planet. But it's certainly worth doing. I'll tell you what, it'd be swapping hours for dollars at the job somewhere. So what would my exit strategy be? Lease option it? Is that your answer?
Yes.
Could you sell it for cash? Well, first of all, what would be the next question you asked the individual?
Would you be willing
I
to
pay
sell
you all
the
cash
house for
and
what you
close
owe on
quickly.
it?
Would you be willing to sell for what you owe on it? Yep, I would certainly ask that. If there's $15,000 difference between what they want and what they're asking. What's the next question when they say no? What's the least you could take for your equity? Got it? Well, let's say you get them down to where they want $10,000. Is that the best you can do? In fact, if you look at that page in your book, it says, are you saying if I don't give you $10,000, you won't sell the house? It's right there at the bottom of that page we just left. Now, if the answer is yes, no, I've got to have 10. What do you think would be the next question? No. If I gave you the 10, could you get it when I get paid? If I take over your debt, can you wait on your 10 until I cash out of the house? Guys, that's all there is to it. There's no complicated phrasing here. If I take over your debt, can you wait to get your 10 until I sell a house and cash out? That's all there is to it. Now, if the answer is no, is it a suspect or a prospect? It's a suspect. It's a pretty good suspect, though. Probably worth one following up. You got them come down $5,000. You've already built in at least $20,000 worth of equity on the surface, haven't you? Plus, you're going to probably raise the price higher than $150 when you sell it. I mean, you're talking about pretty good sized dollars here. Do you know how many people there are in this country who work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year for $30,000? Certainly nobody in this room. So, what's the exit? Lease option? Yeah. Could it be a cash out? It could be, but I'd want it to be done at lightning speed. And I'd probably want to be selling it to somebody that I've already got on my buyer's list. Okay, next one. Front row, front mic. 100.
That would be a prospect and a short sale.
Well, let's read it. I'm sorry, I chased you guys off too soon. We got more problems than we got people, don't we? Okay, 150, 130, 98 first, 30 second, 10 in repairs. He's asking 128. No. Am I on the wrong one? Yeah. Okay, 0 repairs. Asking 130, worth 150, but owes 98 on the first, 30 on the second, and he's 3 months behind. What's the most important number? What's the most important fact out of those 5? 3 months behind. Suspect or prospect?
Prospect.
Wait a minute, I'm asking him.
I already said prospect and short sale.
Okay, yeah, that was a real hard one, wasn't it? Here. Okay. Hey, write this down. If they're behind on their payments and they'll give you the deed, take it. If they're behind on their payments and they'll give you the deed, take it. As long as you do not make promises that you may not be able to keep. You can figure out what to do with it after you get it. And in fact, that's where you learn the best, isn't it? Okay, next. Same house, 150R, 128 asking, owes 98 and 30, 10,000 repairs, 4 behind. Back mic.
Prospect.
Prospect. Okay. Why is he a prospect? I mean, what is it that you see? You don't need to know anything else makes him a prospect.
Second mortgage is behind.
4 payments behind. I know what it was. I only had 4 shirts. That's why I chased you guys off. Okay. Dorian don't need one anyway. She wouldn't wear this in New Zealand. People ask you what that means, huh? Okay, you're up, Dorian. Well, does everybody see why that's a prospect? Yeah, pretty much the same as the one above. I mean, it's just... Well, why? If we got the deed, what would be the first thing we'd do? No, first thing you'd do is have the title checked. And what would be the second thing you'd do? Start the short sale process, like Jeff's going to tell you this afternoon. And your exit strategy would be what? No, your exit strategy. Sell for cash. That is the only answer, guys. That is the only answer. Because you're not going to lease option a property with $10,000 worth of repairs on it, number one, and even if you do it, you can have so much money in it, you're not going to be able to come out alive. You're probably going to have to put the money in it, repair it, after you get all... in fact, this is one you're probably going to have to fund. You're probably going to have to get a private loan to fund this if you get it discounted enough, simply because it needs 10 in repairs. Your only other choice is to sell it as is to somebody who can go get a loan and get it cashed out. Which is exactly what we just did on this one that Don and John and I did. We didn't repair that house. Sold a little cheaper, they went and got a loan. But either way, it's a cash out. Next line. 400, 325 asking, 310 loan, 20 in repairs. Prospect or suspect, Dorian?
I put prospect first, and then I put suspect as a sweet equity lease option only. You'd have to do it if you did a lease option. It'd have to be sweet equity.
Doesn't matter. She's just making up rules as she goes anyway. It's a absolute prospect. Why? Because there's so much equity in it. So much equity in it. Now, but their loan is 310 and they're asking 325. What to do? What to do? Well, what's the first question? Will you sell for what you owe on it? And 50% of the time you'll get a yes. And then it's over. Just go get the deed. Now your purchase price becomes what? 310. Who thinks you have to go to another seminar to figure out a way to make money on a house worth 400 that needs 20 with a 310 debt on it? What are your options? Come up with the money to repair it and retail it. Sell it as is to an owner-occupant for maybe $275, $250 if you have to. I mean $350, or wholesale it to an investor for less. Let them repair it and resell it. All of those are options. Is lease optioning an option? Actually, it is. It's called the Work for Equity program, of which I will cover in MOS. Don't even ask. I ain't going there. But in fact, it's a beautiful program. Put tenants in there and let them fix it with their money. Put tenants in there, let them fix it with their money, and then when they get it fixed, they go get a loan and cash you out. Taking the money and running from where? Where are you going to get it? Because it needs $20,000 worth of repairs. I agree. So you want to wholesale it to an owner-occupant, most likely. Okay, good. That's your choice. We already covered that one. That is your choice. You can do that. And probably would be able to do it. However, keep in mind now, if $20,000 worth of work is an awful lot of work. And it probably won't be able to get financed until some of that work is done. Well, does that stop you? Okay, what could we do? Well, suppose the buyer is willing to buy the property, take over the payments on the 310, but has to get some of the work done before they can get it financed. How would you handle that? I think I just told you. It's called a Work for Equity program. Correct. You lease option it to them till they get the work done, then they can go get the loan. Or could you just deed it to them? Let them take over the 310 and take back a second for whatever you want, less whatever they give you down. Have I lost you? It's risky to whom? It is? Yeah, you're right. You might lose your entire investment. Okay, opportunity loss now. Look, what if I had an owner-occupant come in here and say, listen, I'll sell you this house for $375. All right, make it $360. Because $20,000 worth of work is a nasty house. All right? You could even have an appraisal in hand showing that it's worth $400 fixed. Now, guys, I'd spend $20 to fix it. But what does that look like to a couple who's going to go in there and do the work themselves? No. It looks like $5. Because, you see, they don't have to hire the labor. All they got to do is buy materials. And they probably won't fix it the way I fix it. They see a lot smaller repair cost than I do. So if they get that much equity and they got to spend $5,000, they're going to be beating you down to buy it. I'd say, listen, I'll make it easy for you. You take over the $310,000 debt. I will deed you the house. You do the repairs. You give me $10,000 cash now. And you will owe me $40 on a second. I'll take back a second mortgage with no payments. Didn't say anything about no interest on this one. When you're receiving, you get interest. When you're paying, you don't pay interest. So let interest accrue on it. I just let interest accrue at 10%. Is that fair? Just the kind of guy I am. 10%. In other words, if it takes you 6 months to pay me, you owe me $42,000. That's the principal plus $2,000 interest. No payments. I want to make it easy on you. Just pay the first mortgage. Besides, do you guys really want to be putzing around collecting little bitty payments anyway on short-term debts? Let it accrue. So now what are they going to do? They'll go spend their additional $5,000 to $10,000. They'll get it in shape and they'll go get a loan on it. They'll go refinance it. Why are they refinancing it? Because they already own it. I deeded it to them. They already own it. But whenever they refinance it, I have to be paid. They can't close the loan without me getting paid. And what do you mean get it back? I never put it out. I've already got $10,000. If I never collect another nickel and I'm going to collect my $40, what's the worst case? They do a lot of work on it and I have to go take it back. Then I got to go sell it again. It's the pits, man. It's the pits. I've had houses I've taken back 5 times. They're a cash cow.
What if they don't refinance? They just pay it.
What if they do? I got a balloon on this. I'm only going to give them X amount. Do I really care? I'd probably give them a year. I'm not trying to make it hard. I'm trying to make it easy. I'll give you no payments on that. Let it accrue interest. No longer than a year from now, you owe me to 40. Okay, what if the year goes by and they haven't paid me? You call the Italians. No. You go out to them and you call them and say, listen, I got a balloon due. What's up? Oh, well, we just haven't gotten it refinanced yet. And we haven't got a repair. Oh, yeah. Well, what are we going to do about it? Do you want me to take the house back? Or do you want to make other arrangements? Because right now we have two choices. Either we work out other arrangements or I foreclose on you. Three choices. Or you just go ahead and deed it back to me and forget about it. I don't care which one of the three they pick. Because I'm going to win at either one of them. If they deed it back, they don't owe me to 40 anymore, do they? But I'm right back where I started from. Probably in better condition because they've done some work to the house. If I have to foreclose, same thing. Just don't take 3 or 4 months longer. Or, why don't we just make arrangements and try to help these people keep their house? And say, listen, got to figure out a way to pay me the 40. What can you do? What's the most you can give me now? They'll come up with something to save their house. To reduce this debt. Okay, well, how about this? How about you start making principal and interest payments on it, and I'll give you another year to pay it off. Is that fair? Is that fair? All right, well, what do you got to trade? You got a car, boat, truck, trailer, motorhome, mobile home, diamonds, gold, stock, bonds, jewelry, earrings, or a horse you want to get rid of. Do you understand that I'm dealing with monopoly money here? It's all free money. Whatever I get, it's free. Whatever I can come up with and they can come up with and we can come up with as a team, it's all free to me, whatever it is. So I'd probably just look to them and say, listen, you owe me 42 grand. How do you suggest I collect it? And I'd probably accept almost anything they say. Because you see, it's not my money sitting out there in that property. Yes?
Yeah, Ron, with 20,000 in repairs here, why are we considering this still a pretty house and not applying the Mayo formula?
Because you're taking, that's a good question. How come it doesn't qualify as an ugly house with 20,000 repairs? Who said it over here? Because I'm not paying cash. I'm taking over a debt for the majority of the value of the property. Okay. Am I going to have trouble getting that one through to you? If I don't have to raise cash, it's usually in the pretty house category. Yes?
It looks like in real life this would be someone who would care about their...
Could you get up to that mic? Apparently it's not working.
This seems like they would be people who would care about their credit and would not let you take it subject to their debt.
I see. So now we're assuming that because
they're
it's
not
current,
behind or...
Now we're assuming it's because it's current, people aren't going to deed it to us because they're worried about their credit. Is that what we're assuming now? Okay. How many of you folks in the room have gotten people to deed you their house when their payments were current? Could you stand up, please? Will there be any further questions? Thank you. If you start assuming that people won't give you their house because their payments are current, you're going to assume yourself right out of business. Again, you cannot think for people trying to think for yourself. Should you guys deed away houses that you are personally guaranteeing the debt on to somebody else? No, you won't. Will you? But you pay good money and sacrifice of time to come learn that stuff. People you're buying from don't, and even if they did, they want a quick fix. They don't want to work at it. And the deal is this. People will deed you their houses all day long with their credit in your hands, knowing it, signing off on it, to get out of the debt and relieve themselves of the pressure of this problem. And if you don't think they will, get out there and start asking them. Pretty soon you will discover it. I can't tell you you're ever going to justify it. I'm just telling you you're going to discover it. Turn the lights back on, please. They're in the dark enough.
Hey, Ron.
Okay, to the next mic.
Ron.
Yeah.
If you hold a second and you don't collect payments for a year, if they don't pay the first, will you get notified?
Yes. in every state but Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
in this state, they don't
you
have
won't
to
get
notify
foreclosed on.
Pardon me?
So the first won't foreclose you out without you knowing.
Yeah, they will.
No, but I mean, you'll know about it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You'll know about it because you'll get served. And then you go to the owner and you say, hey, man, what's up? What's this? Give me the deed. Get out. Or I foreclose you out and come after you for a judgment. Hey, guys, do you know what your options are when you take back a second? Here we go, getting into MOS stuff. I can just see it coming. If they owe you this note, are they going to personally guarantee that debt? Absolutely. Under no circumstances do you let somebody owe you money without them personally guaranteeing it. For the same reasons, you're not going to personally guarantee debt. We don't buy like we sell. Because the minute they sign that note, you got them. Do you know that you can go after them and get a $40,000 judgment against them and never go after the property? You can haunt them until they file bankruptcy and beyond to collect that money. You don't even have to go after the property. And you better know that when you go signing debt personally. That's the right your bank has. They do not have to foreclose on your property. Did you know that they could go after you, get a judgment on the debt for $40,000 and then foreclose on the property in addition to that? They can go sell the property, collect that, plus collect the $40,000. Or they can just foreclose and not come after you personally. All of those are the options of a lender. And they're all your options when you take back debt. So, if you take back a second, what are you probably going to do in this case? What's the smartest business decision you can attempt to do first if they don't pay? No, go back and get the deed. You don't need to go haunt them. You don't need to drag them. You don't need to get a judgment. Just go get the deed and do it over. Remember, you got $10,000 of their money. Plus, they've probably done some work on the house. Now, what if they become real jerks? Boy, that's all it takes for me. All they got to do is hit my jerk trigger, and they bring out Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Which one of them was the ugly one? I can't remember. Mr. Hyde? That's all it takes. Just like this guy here. Did everything we could to settle with this guy peacefully and reasonably. No, he had to be a jerk. I'm a bigger jerk. So, let's say they go in there and they tear up your house a little bit or whatever. And they tell you to shove it. I ain't paying you. Well, you see, in that case, I'm coming and I'm coming hard. In that case, I'd probably let this thing go into foreclosure and go get a judgment against them for $40,000 personally, if that's what it took. That's just a personal man thing.
Well,
I've been in this business a long time, and you know what? I bend over backwards to help people who keep their promise. But when they start not keeping their promises to me, oh, I get nasty. Yes? Your client's behind on the first. I heard that much.
Yeah, he's as much as 5 or 6 months behind on the first, but large property. He's been moved out for mold remediation. Some underlying lenders will forbear payment on that until
they won't forbear it for your client. Why? Because your client is not the one who originated the debt. They cannot add the back payments, which is forbearance. They cannot add the back payments to a note unless they're doing it for the originator of the debt. They have to sign a mortgage modification agreement to do that. That is a joint agreement between lender and borrower. So forbearance is out in this case. Remember, I took over the deed, then I deeded it to my new guy. My originator's gone. Follow me?
Yes, sir. But
Okay.
if he were carrying the insurance that's doing the mold remediation, would they still kick him out? Or does he own the right to get it remediated so he can pay both parties?
He has no rights as far as the lender's concerned because he's not the originator of the debt. The bank will not even talk to the person you just deeded this property to. They're not the originator of the debt.
But the mold properties do not scare you. You said you'd
mold
buy them
properties don't scare me.
You can fix them, is what you're saying.
I can fix them. I write checks. Mold dies.
Do you use the insurance carrier if possible?
My insurance in Florida won't cover mold. In fact, they have great big old exclusions. In fact, there isn't a whole lot left they cover down there now. I mean, they're not covering hurricanes. They're not covering mold. And Donna and I just had a house stripped, and they didn't cover that. What are we paying you insurance for? For fire. Okay, well, by God, the next one I'll make sure there's something for you to cover.
Well, they'll still cover doing though, but shouldn't you let them do that before you take it back?
Well, in this case, the long and short of it is, if they're behind on the first mortgage, I'm going to probably go for the short sale program anyway. I'm not going to let it just go in default. And then I just have to decide whether you want to go after the second one. But all of your questions need to be put on hold till we get to the bottom of this list here, because it's too complicated. The next one, $310,000 ARV, 213 asking, 123 loan, 5 in repairs, and 3 behind. Who can guess what the answer is? It's a prospect. Okay, what are we going to do? Now, look at all that money they're asking for. They're asking for $90,000. Hey, Donna, does this loan look? Does this one? This is the house that Donna currently lives in. In our case, we just went and got a private loan for $100,000, of which the payments were made current out of. And the seller got their cash. We got $80,000-$90,000 in equity and went on down the highway. In that case, it wasn't a short sale prospect. We just made the payments current. Actually, the seller did, out of their proceeds. I'll tell you right now, there's no way on earth the bank would have short sailed the property anyway. It was a waste of time trying to chase it. Look at it, guys. Does a bank have a reason to short sale a $123,000 loan on a $310,000 property? You know, they'll tell you to shove it real quick on that. There's just too much equity in there. You save your breath. Next one, 225R, 215 asking, 178 loan, and it's current, and it needs no repairs. Who wants to handle that one? Hold it. Who wants to handle it? Can you get up to the mic there and handle it? Here. Suspect or prospect? Why? The price is too close to the ARV. Right answer. Well, shouldn't we ask them if they'll take less? Well, why don't we ask them if they'll sell it for what they owe on it? Who thinks we ought to ask them that? No. Come on now. Could we apply a little bit of common sense here somewhere? They're asking $215, they owe $178. To ask them to sell it for what they owe on it would piss them off. Why? Because there's such a huge difference between what they're asking and what they owe. It's quite obvious to me they're willing to give a little bit of discount, but not much. Do you realize if they sold it with a realtor, they'd take a bigger discount than what they're taking here? As far as I'm concerned, they're asking top retail price, and they're a time waster. I wouldn't even ask them if they'd sell it for what they owe on it. I know when I hear the first two numbers, the answer is no. And besides, I got better things to do than to chase people who want all of their money. I mean, I don't blame them. When you sell a house, you want all your money? Me too. I don't blame them. I'm not mad at them. I just know that they're not going to work with me. Next. 125R, 114 asking. 67 first, 47 second, 10 repairs, and they're 11 payments behind. We probably need to run through a computer to see if the numbers work out okay. Is it a suspect or a prospect? Prospect. It's not a prospect, ladies and gentlemen. It's a done deal. Now, what do we know by just looking at that line? One, we know it's an absolute slam dunk kick butt short sale discount prospect. Why? Because they're 11 payments behind. Neither the first nor the second want anything to do with this property. I know by just looking at that line, my $47,000 is going to come down to $3,000 or $4,000 and go away. I know without even hardly asking. I don't know for sure they're going to consent on the first go-round, but I know they're going. Whether I get it today or whether I get it when it gets close to foreclosure, when somebody finally decides to file, they're going. I know the first mortgage holder, there's a good chance they're going to take a discount for two reasons. Somebody tell me the two reasons. One, they're 11 months behind. Two, it needs repairs. If it needs $10,000 worth of work, guys, what does that look like, or what are we going to make it look like to the lender? Looks like 30 to me. Looks like 30 to me. Lot of work. Besides, by the time we get around to getting the BPO artists out there, the grass is going to be higher, and who knows, the place might even have termites by then. Might smell bad too. I had a student literally bring cat urine to class one time, wanted to bottle it and sell it. I said, I don't think that's a good idea. In fact, I pulled those numbers out because they're a real deal. Some of you have seen the deal by Katie, who used to work for us, BJ's friend. You got a $67,000 first, and you got a $47,000 second, and the ARV in her case was 110. Oh, 125? Well, actually, that might have been her ARV. Anyway, I think her ARV was 110. But here's what she did. This first mortgage company did not discount a dime. They took 67, but she got this guy to go down to $2,000. 69,000. Anyway, she sold the house for 101 as is, didn't touch it. She netted $28,000. That's all I remember. And I got to tell you, she'd already thrown this lead away. In fact, BJ, are you back there? Do you remember when you and Katie came to my house and Katie told me about this lead and she said she threw it away? She said, "God, give me the deed, but what am I going to do with a house that's overfinanced?" I said, "Go get it out of the trash and I'm going to breathe life into it. We're going to make it rise like a phoenix." And a little while later, Katie was cashing a check for $28,000. She brought it in my office and she says, "Ron, do you know this is what they pay me for a whole year?" She don't work there anymore. You have a question? No, that's a different deal. Yeah. Yeah, no, this first would not discount at all. Well, actually, yeah, I think they did. I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think they did discount a little bit. I think I'm thinking of Donna's deal on one we just closed where they wouldn't discount at all on the first. Yeah. Anyway, she netted 28. That's all that counts. All right, next one. $250,000 ARV. They want $2,000 and take over all that mess. Who on earth would want a deed on a property with all that crap on it? How much is that? 210, 235, 245, 255. That house has got $255,000 owed on it. It's only worth $250. You got to be crazy to want that deal. And it needs 5 in work, and it's 4 payments behind. What do we know? Well, we know we're probably not going to get the short sale at first. Too much equity. Oh, it is current on the first. You're right. Well, no, we're not short sailing it now. Okay. But look at that second. It's 4 payments behind. He's toast. He's toast for a small amount of money. Okay. What about that IRS lien? What do you mean gone? How's he going to go away? He ain't going to go away just because. Oh, call Ron. Okay. He ain't going to go away just because you got the deed. How you get it off? Well, if it goes through you ought to write this down. If it goes through foreclosure, the IRS has 120 days to redeem it, or it automatically drops off. You don't have to file anything. It automatically drops off 120 days after foreclosure. But is that going to apply here? It doesn't drop off 120 after you get the deed. However, what you don't know is that you can go to the IRS and ask them to release it from the property, and they will do it. Don't offer them money. Just ask them to release the lien from the property. They will do it for you if you've got a deed. They won't do it for the person the lien's on. But as soon as they see the ownership has changed hands, their intent is not to punish you. They'll release the lien. Now you'll have to provide them with some evidence of the value of the mortgages that are on it, and so forth and so on. Now, of course, in this case, you would send them the assessed value because it's low. You would send them a list of repairs, which are huge, and you would show them the underlying debt. When you did all of that, they would see so small of an amount of equity in this property, they will not mess with it. They have the right to go redeem it. They have the right. But it's going to take a lot more in equity than that to get the IRS to go after a property. Yes, you're probably going to need a recorded copy of the deed in order to take it to the IRS to get them to look at it. Now, how do I know this? Because I've done it 23 times. Just do what I say. Don't offer them any money. You screw it up, you do that. And just wait till you get this piece of paper in the mail that says release of lien at the top. And when you get that, you just made $50,000 on this deal. Because as soon as that's recorded, this lien is off this property. Now, they won't record it. You got to go record it. Now that you know that, this is a pretty cheap boot camp already, isn't it? While everybody else is running away from IRS liens, you should be running toward them. Give me the property. I don't know what I can do with it. You got all these liens on here, but I'll see if I can't figure out something. Incidentally, should you open your big mouth and tell the seller you'll pay off the IRS lien? No. Releasing the lien from the property does not pay it off. And it does not keep the IRS from going after them for the taxes. So don't be careful what comes out of your mouth. Can I get a list of... Oh, I see. You want to sneak in the back door, don't you? I'm sure you can. I don't know how, but I'm sure you can.
Is there a location where you go?
Your local IRS, the closest IRS place to you, and if not, you have to do it by FedEx or mail. Or fax. Yeah.
In my county records, I can search for IRS.
You can't. Where do you live?
Broward County.
Where? Broward. Okay. Be looking for some houses for us to come on down there then. Just kidding. Search for IRS liens. Yeah, well, everybody doesn't have that luxury.
Hey, Ron.
I'm getting there.
Question.
Let's suppose you're the $20,000 judgment and you're behind all that crap. Are you in a pretty good position? You're sucking wind. The $20,000 judgment, I would ask to release from the property. I'll give you $1,000 just to remove it from the property. Not pay it off, remove it. That's called a release of lien. We'll handle more on that when I get more time. Yes?
Is it possible in a situation like this to go after the second, maybe purchase it or short sale it and then wipe the other two guys out?
I think they call that buying defaulted paper.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, if I foreclose, though, do I wipe out the IRS? No. Still got to wait 120 days. I'm still going to go after the release of lien, whether I buy the second or not.
But can't you still go to the IRS and ask for
yes, you can.
Forgiveness?
In fact, you can do all of the above. Even if I bought the second, should I still try to negotiate a release of lien for the judgment and the IRS? If I do, I don't need to foreclose. I got the deed. I own the house. Guys, there's as much money in the paper attached to real estate as there is the real estate itself. Should I revive the paper power boot camp too? Huh? You're just trying to make me old, that's all. I mean, I probably will sooner or later. That's where I teach you the art of paper, defaulted and current, and how to profit from that as well. Oh no, not another boot camp. All right, the last one. $160,000 ARV. 140 asking. First 90, second 30, but they're all current. Suspect or prospect? You sure? Okay, why is it a prospect? Well, no. Why is it a prospect? The answer is because he owes only $10,000 less than he's asking, class. Hello? Now when it's that close, what's the next question? Will you sell a house for what you owe on it? Would you buy it for $130 without a dime out of your pocket when it's worth $160 and it's in excellent shape? The answer is yes. In that case, what are your exit strategies? Could I lease option it out to a tenant buyer and pick up $10,000, $15,000 in a few days? As long as my incoming rent would cover my outgoing payments on those two mortgages. What is another exit? Sell it for cash. Gosh, I got $30,000 built in, plus the additional 10 or 15. I'm going to try to raise the price. Is not $40,000 profit enough for you guys to get involved? Do you understand that we just got the deed on this house for nothing? We had to raise no capital. We did no repairs. We hired no contractor. All we did, get deed and sell and pick up a check for $40,000 less cost. If that's not good enough for you, take another look. All right. Now, let's talk about getting the deed. In fact, we probably could use one of these examples right here. Hey, here we go. Let's take the 1, 2, 3, 4. What are you guys clicking? Huh? Is it, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. You don't read upside down, huh? Okay. Let's take the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's take the... I got it. Let's take the $400,000 house off of our list. See, the payments are current. You with me? There's a $310,000 loan on it, right? Okay. If the payments are current, wouldn't that tell you that one of two things are going to happen? Either you're going to sell it for cash and pay off the loan, or you're going to lease option it out and start having to make the payments sometime in the future.